It's astonishing enough that Dickens wrote the latter part of Pickwick Papers, all of Oliver Twist, and all of Nicholas Nickleby, as well as thinking about Barnaby Rudge and planning the old curiosity shop during the 2.5 years that he lived in Doughty Street. But that wasn't all, by any means. He was, of course, editing Bentley's Miscellany, which was a pretty full-time job. He was writing occasional pieces. He was writing copious letters, involving himself in all kinds of causes célèbres, and somehow managed also to throw off in that extraordinary, exuberant outburst of writing, which lasted for some years. Remember how young he was. At the time, he was 25 when he moved into Doughty Street. And here he wrote a series of sketches responding to a pseudonymously published set called Sketches of Young Ladies. He came up with his sketches of young gentlemen and then sketches of young couples, both of which subjects he was well qualified to write on, since he was certainly a young gentleman and now part of a young couple. He covers a wide range of young gentlemen. Here there's the bashful young gentleman, the out-and-out young gentleman, the very friendly young gentleman, the military young gentleman, the political young gentleman, the domestic young gentleman, the censorious young gentleman, the funny young gentleman, the poetical young gentleman, the throwing off young gentleman, and the young ladies young gentleman. But the sketch in which he is most self-revealed, and in a way it's perhaps the most affectionate of the sketches, is called The Theatrical Young Gentleman. Well, in a sense, Dickens was a theatrical young gentleman, though he disavows it in his first paragraph, because he was, and had been for years and years, obsessed by the theatre, by who was in and who was out, of the ups and the downs of the various actors, the scandals, the breakdowns, and so on. And here he reports on just such a person. A stage door Johnny, I suppose we'd call him. We still have them today, you know. God bless them. They follow the fortunes of the theatre with huge and somewhat informed passion, though very happy to pass on dubious facts under the guise of gossip. All gentlemen who love the drama, and there are few gentlemen who are not attached to this most intellectual and rational of all our amusements, do not come within this definition. As we have no mean relish for theatrical entertainments ourselves, we're disinterestedly anxious that this should be perfectly understood. The theatrical young gentleman has early and important information on all theatrical topics. Well, says he abruptly when you meet him in the street, here's a pretty to-do. Flimkins has thrown up his part in the melodrama of the Surrey. And what's to be done? You inquire with as much gravity as you can counterfeit. Ah, that's the point, said the theatrical young gentleman, looking very serious. Boozle declines it. Positively declines it. For all I'm told, I should say it was decidedly in Boozle's line, and that he would be very likely to make a great hit in it, but he objects on the grounds of Flimkins having been put up in the part first, and says no earthly power shall induce him to take the character. It's a fine part, too. Excellent business, I'm told. He has to kill 6 people in the course of the piece, and to fight over a bridge in red fire, which is as safe a card, you know, as can be. Don't mention it, but I hear that the last scene, when he is first poisoned and then stabbed by Mrs. Flimkins as Vengadora, will be the greatest thing that has been done this many years. With this piece of news, and laying his finger on his lips as a caution for you not to excite the town with it, the theatrical young gentleman hurries away. The theatrical young gentleman, from often frequenting the different theatrical establishments, has pet and familiar names for them all. Thus, Covent Garden is the Garden, Drury Lane, the Lane, the Victoria, the Vic, the Olympic, the Pick. Actresses, too, are always designated by their surnames only, as Taylor, Nesbit, Fawcett, Honey, that talented and ladylike girl, Sheriff, that clever little creature, Horton, and so on. In the same manner, he prefixes Christian names when he mentions the actors, as Charlie Young, Jemmy Buckstone, Fred Yates, Paul Bedford. When he's at a loss for a Christian name, the word old, applied indiscriminately, answers quite as well, as Old Charlie Matthews at vestresses, Old Harley and Old Braham. He has a great knowledge of the private proceedings of actresses, especially if they're getting married, and can tell you in a breath half a dozen who have changed their names without avowing it. Whenever an alteration of this kind is made in the playbills, he will remind you that he let you into the secret 6 months ago. The theatrical young gentleman has a great reverence for all that is connected with the stage department of the different theatres. He would at any time prefer going a street or two out of his way to omitting to pass a stage entrance, into which he always looks with a curious and searching eye. If he can only identify a popular actor in the street, he is in a perfect transport of delight, and no sooner meets him than he hurries back and walks a few paces in front of him so that he can turn round from time to time and have a good stare at his features. He looks upon a theatrical fund dinner as one of the most enchanting festivities ever known, and thinks that to be a member of the Garrick Club and see so many actors in their plain clothes must be one of the highest gratifications the world can bestow. The theatrical young gentleman is a constant half-price visitor at one or other of the theatres, and has an infinite relish for all pieces which display the fullest resources of the establishment. He likes to place implicit reliance upon the playbills when he goes to see a showpiece, and works himself up to such a pitch of enthusiasm as not only to believe, if the bills say so, that there are 375 people on the stage at one time in the last scene, but is highly indignant with you unless you believe it too. He considers that if the stage be opened from the footlights to the back wall in any new play, the piece is a triumph of dramatic writing, and applauds accordingly. He has a great notion of trap-doors, too, and thinks any character going down or coming up a trap, no matter whether he be an angel or a demon, they both do it occasionally, one of the most interesting feats in the whole range of scenic illusion. Besides these acquirements, he has several veracious accounts to communicate of the private manners and customs of different actors, which, during the pauses of a quadrille, he usually communicates to his partner, or imparts to his neighbour at a dinner party. Thus he is advised that Mr. Liston always had a footman in gorgeous livery waiting at the side scene with a brandy bottle and tumbler to administer half a pint or so of spirit to him every time he came off, without which assistance he must infallibly have fainted. He knows for a fact that after an arduous part, Mr. George Bennet is put between 2 feather beds to absorb the perspiration, and is credibly informed that Mr. Baker has for many years submitted to a course of lukewarm toast and water to qualify him to sustain his favourite characters. He looks upon Mr. Fitzball as the principal dramatic genius and poet of the day, but holds that there are great writers extant besides him. In proof whereof, he refers you to various dramas and melodramas recently produced, of which he takes in all the 6-penny and 3-penny editions as fast as they appear. The theatrical young gentleman is a great advocate for violence of emotion and redundancy of action. If a father has to curse a child upon the stage, he likes to see it done in the thoroughgoing style, with no mistake about it, to which end it is essential that the child should follow the father on her knees and be knocked violently over on her face by the old gentleman as he goes into a small cottage and shuts the door behind him. He likes to see a blessing invoked upon the young lady when the old gentleman repents, with equal earnestness, and accompanied by the usual conventional forms, which consist of the old gentleman looking anxiously up into the clouds, as if to see whether it rains, and then spreading an imaginary tablecloth over the young lady's head, soft music playing all the while. Upon these and other points of a similar kind, he is, the theatrical young gentleman, a great critic indeed. He is likewise very acute in judging of natural expressions of the passions, and knows precisely the frown, wink, nod, or leer which stands for any one of them, or the means by which it may be converted into any other. As jealousy, with a good stamp of the right foot, becomes anger, or wildness, with the hands clasped before the throat, instead of tearing the wig, is passionate love. If you venture to express a doubt of the accuracy of any of these portraitures, the theatrical young gentleman assures you, with a haughty smile, that it has always been done in that way, and he supposes they are not going to change it at this time of day to please you. To which, of course, you meekly reply that you suppose not. There are innumerable disquisitions of this nature in which the theatrical young gentleman is very profound, especially to ladies, whom he is most in the habit of entertaining with them. But as we have no space to recapitulate them at greater length, we must rest content with calling the attention of the young ladies in general to the theatrical young gentleman of their own acquaintance.